Middle East tensions continue to escalate following Iran's drone and missile attacks on Israel last Saturday. Israel has firmly stated that it will not let Iran's actions go unanswered, convening its war cabinet again to determine its military response. In the midst of a standoff, Iran remains resolute, promising retaliation against any threat to its interests.
There seems to be no end to the ongoing Middle East tensions as Israel warned that Iran's attack would not go unanswered. Israel's war cabinet convened for the third time to deliberate on their course of action. This comes after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hastily summoned the war cabinet for the second time in less than 24 hours following Iran's missile and drone strike.
I want to thank all our international partners who stood up to Iran's aggression. Iran's attack has created new opportunities for cooperation in the Middle East. We are closely assessing the situation. We remain at our highest level of readiness. Iran will face the consequences for its actions. We will choose our response accordingly.
Meanwhile, Iran stands firm, vowing to retaliate against any aggression targeting its interests. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and Foreign Minister both issued stark warnings, emphasizing that even the smallest action against Iran will be met with a severe and widespread response. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi told Vladimir Putin by telephone that Tehran's strikes on Israel were limited and that the Islamic Republic was not interested in escalating, the Kremlin said on Tuesday.
If the Israeli regime makes a mistake, this time Iran's response, as Iran's military commanders announced, will not be minimal but immediate and severe.
Internationally, efforts to defuse the situation are underway. Iraq has urged restraint during talks in Washington, while German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock will travel to Israel for discussions on how to prevent an escalation of tensions in the region.
I will make another trip to Israel today to assure our Israeli partners Germany's full solidarity, and we will talk about how a further escalation with more and more violence can be prevented.
Amid the tension, security measures are heightened on the Italian island of Capri, where G7 foreign ministers are gathering from April 17 to 19. The ministers from major Western powers aim to present a unified front in calling for a de-escalation of hostilities between Israel and Iran.
And for more on that story, we are joined by DD India correspondent Alex Kadir, who's joining me from Tel Aviv. Hi Alex, the Israeli war cabinet met again today. What are you gathering on what sort of military response are they mulling in response to the April 13 attacks by Iran?
Well, I think what's clear is that we're not going to get details of what that response will be until it has already happened, and in some ways it may already be happening. We have reports that a top Hezbollah commander in southern Lebanon was killed in an Israeli drone strike just in the last few hours. Two separate strikes, so it appears the Israeli military ramping up its efforts in southern Lebanon against Hezbollah, and that would track with what we've been hearing from US officials about the kind of response that Israel is considering to that massive attack by Iran, one that would target Iran's proxies but not Iran directly. So more aggressive posture against Hezbollah, perhaps more of aggressive posture against Hamas in Gaza, and perhaps even against the Houthi rebels in Yemen. That may be the way, or one of the ways in which Israel will respond. There is also the possibility of things behind the scenes, like cyber attacks, and certainly a big diplomatic push. The foreign minister of Israel writing to 32 separate countries in what he called a diplomatic offensive against Iran. What seems to be happening also is that escalation that the world feared may not be happening just yet.
Okay. And the German foreign minister, Alex, is also in Tel Aviv in a bid to de-escalate tensions. The US has already made its stand clear that it will not support any military retaliation by Israel. It stands in its defense, but not in a military offensive. So what sort of an impact is the diplomatic pressure having on Tel Aviv when they take their decisions?
I think there'll be two impacts. One is more countries being sympathetic to Israel. So perhaps an improvement of Israel's standing in the world, a standing that has taken quite a severe beating as a result of its military operations in Gaza, something that has divided the world and certainly put a lot of pressure on Israel diplomatically. So Iran's actions, Iran's violence, Iran's recklessness, as the Israelis see it, will perhaps improve diplomatic relations for Israel with others. It will also further isolate Iran, a country that has taken risks with the holy city of Jerusalem, in that those rockets were intercepted above that city and could have caused very serious destruction to profoundly historical and religious sites in the holy city of Jerusalem. So two possible outcomes here diplomatically: more support for Israel by some countries that were getting very frustrated with the level of violence exerted by the Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza, and more isolation for Iran. We'll have to see. It will take a few weeks for us to be very clear on exactly what those consequences may be.
All right, Alex Kadir, many thanks for joining us from Tel Aviv to give us that update.